What a surprise. The moment a Tottenham player dares to say what he actually thinks in public, he's forced to apologise straight away, with that apology in turn being made public by the manager. I guess it's to be expected, but sounds to me like he's been fined by Daniel Levy. Meanwhile, Spurs are down to just one senior centre-back for the rest of this calendar year, and that man, Radu Dragusin, the last man standing, has given his first press conference since joining Spurs. All this and more on today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do give this video a like. If you're on YouTube, please do press subscribe for daily Tottenham content, and there'll be transfer news every single day as we get towards that transfer window. And you can become a member, only costs £1 a month and really helps support me to make daily content for you. All the details of how, either through YouTube or on Patreon, are in the description box below. But let's get started. As I mentioned, from yesterday's press conference with Big Ange Postecoglou, it appears that Tottenham will have only one senior centre-back available until the end of December at the earliest. Mickey van der Ven is now expected to miss between 2 and 3 weeks with that recurrence of the hamstring injury. And Ange Postecoglou has described this injury crisis at Spurs as the worst he's ever faced in his career. In his words, by a fair stretch. He said this: obviously with the weekend's fallout, Romero and Van der Ven, we're still getting some clarity around their prognosis, but both have picked up injuries that will keep them out again. That's disappointing for us because we're thin on numbers, but we've had to deal with that for quite a while now. Everyone else from the weekend got through okay. Rodrigo Bentancur is obviously available, so at least we get him back. At the moment, we're still getting more information on both the guys, and I wouldn't want to put any timeline on it yet. It's challenging. We've also got Ben Davies out, who played a big part while the other two have been gone. It's no secret we're thin on numbers, both squad-wise and position-wise. But it is what it is. We can't change that. We've got some big games coming up starting tomorrow. We'll have to deal with that, with what we've got. I'm still confident we'll be able to get the job done with the players at our disposal. I never think it's just bad luck. Some of it, I've never lost a goalkeeper for this period of time, for instance. Some of the other issues that we've had is reoccurring, particularly this year in terms of guys coming back and re-injuring. It's something we're looking at. We're always trying to explore whether we can do things better. Last year was different to this year. Last year it hit us across the board. This year it's more guys that are coming back who are affected. Knock on wood, we've got a core group who are playing a lot and getting through it okay, but it's something we're trying to address. In terms of who's going to replace Romero and Van der Ven and Davies at centre-back, he says, I think Archie's probably the one for us at the moment that we need to try and get to fill in there. He's done right-back and left-back for us. He had to play at centre-back a little bit this year. He did during the pre-season. With him and Radu, they're the two main sort of defenders. We've still got 5 or 6 games to navigate, so we may have to get creative at some point and deal with it in a different way. So they were Ange's quotes from yesterday's press conference. I have to say, it does not say a lot for how much Ange Postecoglou rates what is coming through the academy at Tottenham Hotspur in the centre-back position, that he is going immediately to Archie Gray, who of course is a centre midfield player by trade. He did play at right-back last season for Leeds, and he has obviously played right and left-back for Spurs this season and some centre-back in pre-season. But what about Alfie Dorrington? I know he's just coming back from an injury, and I'd be lying if I said I'd seen a lot of him play, but he is a centre-back that is highly rated from the academy. And you have to ask, when you look at teams like Liverpool throwing in academy players like Kwanzaa when they've had injury problems, why are the academies everywhere else so much stronger than they are at Tottenham Hotspur? I know that they put more money into it in the last few years and they're trying to improve that, but we have a great history of bringing players through. And sometimes you've got to give them the chance. But I will also say, obviously, I do not see these players train every day. So I do trust that Ange knows different. It's frustrating to hear him talk about re-injuring and how that's a lot of the issue, because I think it's fair to say we all thought when we saw the team news against Chelsea before the game that it was just too much of a risk to start Van der Ven and Romero in that game. It was too early, especially with the two of them together. And now, as a result, we've lost them both for that Man United Carabao Cup quarter-final next week, which, you know, especially with the pressure Ange is under with the way that the league table is going, that is such a huge game for us. And it's going to be a huge game for Ruben Amorim as well at Man United. And with Tottenham looking like they're going to be playing, well, if he stays fit, Archie Gray as one of the two centre-halves, doesn't bode well. And I've said all season, even when the Europa League draw was out, lots of people thought that was an easy draw. I looked at the Galatasaray away game and the Rangers away game that we now have tonight, and I was like, they are not going to be easy games. And I'm sorry to say it, and I'm sorry to sound negative, but all I can expect tonight is a defeat at Rangers. They will be calling it the Battle of Britain. They're playing against the manager who beat them at everything at Celtic. They are going to be so up for it. I feel like the only way maybe we can possibly hope to win that game is if the Rangers players get too up for it and perhaps get a man sent off or something like that, because it's going to be so difficult with such a lightweight squad to go there and turn them over. And actually, we need the points in the Europa League if we want to get in that top 8. We were looking so good after 3 games, having won them all, but then the loss at Galatasaray and the draw at home to Roma with the last-minute equaliser, very disappointing. So, look, I think it's not just luck, as Ange said, about the injuries. Also, he brought back Romero and Van de Ven too soon. Ben Davis, that was unlucky. Obviously, Vicario, it's unlucky. But actually, Fraser Forster has been playing really well. He is also, of course, an ex-Celtic player. So he'll be being booed all night tonight. And now, Radu Dragusin has to become the senior player for us in that back line. And he has to boss everybody else around. And I hope that helps him grow. And he's enabled to show us more of his talent as a result. Andrew was also asked about how he feels about playing in another hostile European atmosphere. He said this: "We've got a young team at the moment, and the more we can expose them to games like this, the better it will serve us moving forward. If we get through to the knockout rounds, they're the kind of games where it's always going to be a pretty hot atmosphere, and you've got to be able to handle that and look forward to it as well, because you want to play in games like that." Well, I think that's true, but once again, to bring up that word, adversity, Spurs unfortunately have proven, even with their first team out this season, that when the chips are down and you need to really fight against adversity and you really need to handle a difficult atmosphere, they sink into their shells. They show the lack of experience they've got. They show the weakness of the youth in the squad. And I have to say that going to Glasgow Rangers tonight, going to Ibrox with a back line that is likely to include Archie Gray and a forward line that is likely to include Timo Werner, I don't know, just doesn't bode well for me. I think Andrew's saying all the right things, but almost kind of setting himself up for the reality that we may well lose this game by saying it's a young team and we're exposing them to these kind of atmospheres, rather than just being like, I think they can do it. I think they're big enough to win this game and I don't have any doubts about them whatsoever. The same being with the academy players. I'd like him to play some of these academy players. Why not? Got an absolutely massive injury crisis. I don't know, I did see a picture of Dorrington and Malachy, I think it was, training at Ibrox, so maybe he'll spring a surprise, but he has talked specifically about Archie Gray. Andrew was also asked about Christian Romero's glowing praise of him in the interview Romero did the other day, where he also slagged off Daniel Levy and the board, and said this: "Christian hasn't been able to help us on the pitch as much as he'd like to, and I think that was his way of trying to help, because he knows that we're going through a tough time, but he believes in what we're doing, and to come through this, we have to remain united. It shows that he cares. He realises that a lot of what he said was good, but some of it wasn't the right way of dealing with it, and he has apologised for it." Well, as I said at the top, I personally don't think Christian Romero needs to apologise for it. I feel like that is probably a club-requested apology. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Romero's been fined for calling out the board and the chairman in terms of their investment. And for me, I read it as really the investment in wages. I think Spurs have spent, in the last few windows in the kind of top 2, 3 or 4 clubs in the Premier League. But in terms of getting the top players, the wages that they would require to come to a club like Tottenham, they are unwilling to break the bank for that. And that is what I think Christian Romero was talking about. And that is why I think he's been fined. And like I said at the top, I don't think he should be fined. I don't think he should be forced to apologise. He's saying it as it is. But Big Ange Postecoglou there sticking to the party line, and maybe I'm not surprised about that, especially when he's under pressure at the moment. But let me know in the comments what you think about that, what you think about Romero apologising to the team and the club, and whether you think Ange Postecoglou is right to stick to the party line. Radu Dragusin did his first, as far as I'm aware anyway, press conference for Spurs, and he was asked about Tottenham's style of play and the ever-increasing list of injuries. He said this: injuries will always be present in a squad, regardless of the way we train and the way we play. I really like the way we play because it's very aggressive. We catch a lot of offsides and we have an advantage on this defensively. It's intense, but we train for this every day. And because of that, we can manage to do this every game. Like I said, in the last games, I didn't feel any kind of issue doing it. He was also asked about playing under Ange Postecoglou, and Radu said this: on a personal level, I think I've improved a lot. I feel like under Ange and under the staff, I've evolved as a player. And like you said, the way we defend here, it's really different than the way I defended in the past. But I think it's a really nice way of playing football and it's enjoyable. Good to hear from Radu Dragusin and not just hearing from his bonkers agent who likes to come out with a soundbite every so often. And really glad to hear that he's enjoying it. And I do think he's evolving as a player. I think he's having to. I think he's improving with the ball at his feet. He's getting braver. He's by no means perfect, and it's going to take time. But he's a young boy, 22 years old. He's come from Italy, where you defend deep and you defend kind of man-to-man. And it's a very different role here at Spurs. And this will only make him a better player in the long run. So going into my predicted team for tonight's game against Rangers, I'm going for this: Forster, Porro and Udogie. I think they'll basically have to play because obviously Jed Spence isn't available in the Europa League. He's not in that squad. Then Dragusin and Gray. Then Bentancur in front with Bergvall and Maddison. And then I think it'll be Werner, Solanke and Johnson. I think he'll rest Son Heung-min's legs, knowing how important it is at the weekend that we get 3 points against Southampton. My predicted score is 2-2. I'm going for a draw because I don't really want to predict that Spurs will lose, but to say that I have fears about this would be an understatement. I said I had fears about Bournemouth. I said I feared we'd lose to Chelsea at home, and I actually even said when we were 2-0 up against Chelsea, I'm afraid, that I wasn't going to celebrate in a big way because I did not feel comfortable that we were going to win that game, and that was proven correct. So I'm going 2-2 tonight. Like I said, I can only hope that, kind of similarly to what Spurs did at home against Chelsea last season when they were kind of over-motivated and over-committed and had 2 men sent off, I can only hope that the Rangers players do a similar kind of thing. Just another couple of bits of news. Daniel Levy, some reports coming out yesterday that Levy has remained close to Fabio Paratici and that he continues to attend Spurs matches and has offered advice on transfers in his advisory role while he serves his ban. CAA Base, the agency who Spurs share a very strong relationship with, and a lot of the players that we've signed recently, they have a corporate box at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and that is where Fabio Paratici has been watching those Spurs games since his football ban was dished out. Let me know how you feel about Paratici still being involved at Spurs. It's a bit cloak and dagger, isn't it? It's again, I don't think the optics are great, but in terms of his talent spotting, I think he's done okay. And if he's doing some deals for us that can help us in the long run, then I guess I'm apathetic about it. If it can help Spurs, then I guess it's good, but it's not good for the optics really in terms of him having a worldwide football ban. Anyway, guys, with the big game tonight coming up, try and enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I will be doing the watch along for this game on Chris Cowlin's YouTube channel. That's at Chris Cowlin. So go and give that a subscribe and watch me doing the watch along tonight on there. And also, please do give this video a like. Press subscribe for daily Tottenham content from me and Premier League and afar transfer news as we get closer to the transfer window. And also, you can listen to this daily content on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just go over there, type in the Spurred On podcast and give me a subscribe or a follow. Come on, you Spurs.